Welcome to part 2 of our series on actors who declined iconic roles. Join us as we explore more fascinating stories behind these surprising choices. 1. Clairedanes was so over Leo to do Titanic. When Titanic debuted in 1997, it was unstoppable, and Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet's tragic love story left a lasting impression on audiences, making them the ideal on-screen duo for a decade. However, Clairedanes came dangerously close to portraying the classy Rose. In 2020, Danes mentioned that she was offered the role in a podcast interview with Dax Shepard called Armchair Expert. However, she can't quite recollect the specifics. All she knew was that she was being strongly urged to accept the position. But Danes, then 17 years old, had just finished Romeo and Juliet, directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. It makes logical that Danes felt queasy recounting the narrative of the Titanic, since it is just another tale of a young couple that is star-crossed and falls in love, this time on a boat. I just didn't have it in me. I had just finished this romantic epic with Leo in Mexico City, where they were going to film Titanic. Danes had no regrets. Looking back, I was feeling impatient for new creative experiences, but that was feeling repetitive, and I knew it was pushing me in the direction of something I couldn't handle. Emily Blunt missed her mark over Marvel's Black Widow. The 2014 science fiction film Edge of Tomorrow made Emily Blunt a well-known on-screen heroine. However, the actress's rise to fame almost happened sooner, when she was considered for the role of Natasha Romanoff, often known as Black Widow, starting with Iron Man 2. Blunt was going to play the first female Avenger, but her commitments to another film prevented her from doing so. I signed up to perform Gulliver's Travels. In an interview from 2021, Blunt said to Howard Stern, "I didn't want to do Gulliver's Travels." She made it clear that working with a lot of really lovely people was one of the job's benefits, but she was nonetheless devastated that joining the biggest film franchise in history was out of the question. "For me, it was a little heartbreaking. I'm really proud of the choices I make, and the projects I work on are really important to me." 3. Halle Berry let Speed pass her by. Sandra Bullock became a cinematic star while Keanu Reeves' box office winning run was sustained by Speed. However, Halle Berry was first approached for the film's lead female role of Annie Porter, which involves her assisting Reeves' character in operating a Los Angeles bus that is set to explode. Because the role lacked a lot of conversation, Berry stated she wasn't interested in it in a 1995 Movie Line episode. "I decided against accepting Speed because I don't want to drive that bus. I admit, when I read action stuff like, the bus flies 100 miles per hour over a flyover, I just don't get it," she continued. "In one of the script versions they showed me, the bus kept traveling around the parking lot at Dodger Stadium without ever leaving it." Berry expressed her appreciation for the film's colorblind casting, which was unusual at the time. She did, however, concede that she might not have achieved the same level of success as Bullock as a black woman due to her race. "That wouldn't be my reality if I had been driving that bus, and that's a fact," she stated. "Why would I think that after Speed? After being in one of the biggest films of the year, The Flintstones, it should be my reality. It's not. I know better, as a black woman does. My experience of reality is quite distinct. My battle is quite distinct." Harrison Ford fossilized himself out of Jurassic Park. Harrison Ford has established himself as a reputable figure in Hollywood with films such as The Fugitive and Air Force One, even in the absence of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. However, there was one enormously popular film that Ford chose not to examine: Steven Spielberg's groundbreaking Jurassic Park. Spielberg stated as much in 2011 during a Raiders of the Lost Ark 30th anniversary screening, even if his motivations for turning down the role of archaeologist Dr. Alan Grant remain unclear. Spielberg and Ford were there for a candid, during which Ford quipped in jest that Spielberg only ever gets in to play Indiana Jones. "Do you know who I offered Jurassic Park to?" Spielberg shot back, "This individual. I initially made this proposition to Alan Grant." 5. Liam Neeson passed on James Bond to save his marriage. Liam Neeson has starred in a number of films during his long career, including ones as irate fathers who make scary phone calls and mentors to Jedi Knights. However, Liam Neeson was not able to land the James Bond role. The late Natasha Richardson, the performer from Ireland, declined to star in GoldenEye not because she was uninterested in the role, but rather because she would not marry him. In a 2023 guest appearance on Conan O'Brien's podcast Conan Needs a Friend, Neeson said, "I think I was on their radar for 5 minutes. Barbara Broccoli called me a few times when I first started receiving calls, and she asked whether I would be interested. Yes, I would, I replied. At the time, Natasha and I were not wed. We are not getting married if you are offered James Bond," she declared. Neeson made light of O'Brien's situation by acting out a hypothetical scenario that highlights Richardson's issue with her job, her spouse returning home after spending the entire day in close proximity to stunning co-stars. "These dull, incredibly gorgeous women. I am at my breaking point." Instead, Pierce Brosnan assumed the license to kill, playing James Bond from the mid to late 1990s until Die Another Day in 2002. 6. Henry Golding didn't see gold in Crazy Rich Asians, at least at first in 2018. John M. Chu's Crazy Rich Asians became a huge smash, starring Constance Wu as a Chinese-American lady who falls in love with an extremely wealthy Singaporean bachelor. Henry Golding, a recent actor who was formerly a television host, co-starred with her. On the other hand, Golding turned down the opportunity of a lifetime. Not just once, but multiple times. In retrospect, Golding stated, "It's for someone else who is going to bring the A game, who is a legitimate actor," during an interview on The View. Chu persisted, and that's when Golding agreed to take the studio's risk on an unknown like him. Casting Golding was ultimately akin to winning the lotto. 7. Rachel McAdams retreated from Hollywood during The Devil Wears Prada on Wednesdays. Rachel McAdams almost always wore red. Following her breakout performance in films such as Mean Girls and The Notebook, McAdams had offers for high-profile roles in films ranging from the James Bond revival Casino Royale to Iron Man, the film that introduced the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Rather, for the sake of her mental health, McAdams took a short leave of absence and returned to her native Canada. The studio had McAdams in mind for the lead role when The Devil Wears Prada was stepping up pre-production. The recipient was Anne Hathaway. Director David Frankel revealed that the studio made 3 distinct attempts to give McAdams the role in an Entertainment Weekly interview from 2021. Regarding her lengthy hiatus from the industry, McAdams stated in a 2023 Bustle profile, "I felt bad for not seizing the chance that I was being given, since I knew I was in such a lucky spot. However, I also realized that it didn't fully fit my personality or what I required to maintain my sanity. Undoubtedly, there were moments of anxiety when I wondered why I was doing it and if I was just throwing everything away. Years passed before I realized what my gut felt I should be doing." 8. Briancox almost dropped F-bombs on Game of Thrones even before he became famous for his use of the F-word in HBO's Succession. Brian Cox was a talented actor. However, Cox playfully mentions in his biography putting the rabbit in the hat that he was given the part of Robert Baratheon on Game of Thrones, another HBO epic about dynasties. Cox wrote, "I was supposed to be a king named Robert Baratheon, who apparently died when he was gored by a boar in the first season. I'm often asked if I was offered a role in Game of Thrones, reason being that every other bugger was. I know very little about Game of Thrones, so I can't tell you whether or not he was an important character, and I'm not going to Google it just in case he was, because I turned it down." Cox had no trouble turning others into the boar on his floor, even though he didn't want to be gored by one. 9. Joaquin Phoenix has strange reasons for leaving Doctor Strange before he won an Oscar for playing Batman's most famous villain. Joaquin Phoenix almost played Marvel's Sorcerer Supreme. In a 2018 interview with Little White Lies, Phoenix revealed he was briefly in talks with Marvel Studios to star in Doctor Strange. Phoenix didn't say much about what went down, only that everybody was really happy with how things turned out. 10. Drew Barrymore switched places on screen when Drew Barrymore made her feature film debut in Wes Craven's creative teen horror Scream in 1996. She was just starting her career as an actress. Barrymore announced on her daytime talk program that she was an uncredited producer on the film and would be starring as the main character Sydney, who was eventually played by Neve Campbell, on the 25th anniversary of the film's premiere. However, Barrymore stated that she wished to take viewers by surprise by letting herself become the first victim in the film. "You kind of always have this tension, but you kind of know that your hero is going to make it," recalled Barrymore. "And I wondered, what if I die? Because then it would be as if all bets were off. Anyone could die in this film," eliminating the cliched safety net that says the girl always gets away. Thank you for watching part 2 of our series on actors who turned down iconic roles. Stay tuned for more captivating stories in future episodes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing content. Until next time, remember the power of choice in shaping the world of film.